The moment the Venezuela starting lineup was announced, something in the room shifted. Shohei Ohtani, the man who smiles through 99 miles per hour fastballs, who casually launches 500-foot home runs, who once carried an entire national team on his back, slammed his fist on the table. Not a tap. Not a frustrated exhale. A full, closed-fist slam. Manager Hideki Matsui went pale. And behind those locked locker room doors, words were exchanged that no one inside the Samurai Japan camp was supposed to repeat. What exactly happened? And why was Ohtani, the most composed athlete on the planet, pushed to a breaking point? To understand what happened in that locker room, you first need to understand what the Venezuela game actually meant. Not just as a match, but as a statement. As a test of everything Ohtani had been building toward. Let's set the scene. Japan's national team had entered the tournament carrying the weight of expectation not just from the country, but from a generation of baseball fans worldwide who have watched Ohtani redefine what a baseball player can be. In the months leading up to the tournament, training camp had been unusually intense. According to multiple insiders familiar with the camp atmosphere, the coaching staff had made a quiet but significant decision: they planned to manage Ohtani's innings strictly. Protect the arm. Limit the at-bats. Keep him fresh for the final rounds. On paper, that sounds responsible. Sensible, even. But Ohtani did not see it that way. Here is what most people don't know about Shohei Ohtani: he is not simply a talented player who happens to work hard. He is a player who has built his entire identity around preparedness. His former Nippon Ham Fighters teammate Kensuke Kondo once revealed that as a teenager, Ohtani ate pasta with only salt, no sauce, no seasoning, not because it was all he could afford, but because he had calculated the exact macronutrient breakdown and decided that this was optimal for his body at that stage of training. When challenged that it must taste terrible, Ohtani replied with quiet certainty, "It's delicious." That's the mind of a man who tolerates no compromise between his preparation and his performance. So when a lineup sheet arrived that told him, without warning, that he would be sitting out certain innings against Venezuela, the reaction wasn't childish. It was the reaction of someone who had planned every detail of his readiness for that exact moment, only to have those plans overruled without discussion. The fist on the table wasn't anger. It was the sound of months of preparation colliding with a decision he had no say in. Now let's talk about what actually unfolded inside that locker room, because the sequence of events matters. When the starting lineup was posted, roughly 90 minutes before first pitch against Venezuela, several players noticed Ohtani's name was missing from certain key positions. According to sources close to the camp, his reaction was immediate and visible. He did not pull a coach aside for a quiet conversation. He did not nod and move on. He sat at the table, stared at the sheet, and then, fist down. The room went quiet. A player nearby described the moment as feeling like the temperature in the locker room dropped 10 degrees. Manager Ibata, who had taken on the difficult job of balancing individual readiness with team strategy, reportedly approached Ohtani almost immediately. The exchange that followed was not a screaming match. This is important. What made the confrontation significant wasn't volume, it was weight. Ohtani reportedly told the manager directly, "I absolutely cannot accept the current situation." 7 words. No theatrics. No threats. Just a clear, cold statement of refusal from the best player on the field. For context, this level of direct confrontation is almost unheard of in Japanese baseball culture. The sport's social code places enormous value on deference to management, on collective harmony, on the idea that the individual subordinates himself to the team. Ohtani didn't break that code out of arrogance. He broke it because, for him, being held back wasn't protecting the team. It was weakening it. He had watched himself transform from a promising teenager eating salt pasta in Iwate Prefecture into the most complete baseball player on earth, and that transformation was built on one principle: maximum preparation, maximum execution, every single time. To be told to hold back felt, to him, like a betrayal of the standard he had set for himself and demanded from those around him. The clash between players that followed reportedly involved at least 2 senior members of the squad who sided with the coaching staff's decision, and 2 others who aligned with Ohtani's position. The argument centered on a single question: whose body, whose career, whose risk is it? To fully understand why Ohtani reacted the way he did, you need to go back further than the Venezuela lineup sheet. You need to go back to the dietary system he developed under Yu Darvish's influence. You need to go back to the moment he built his first serious meal plan at Hanamaki Higashi High School, setting his own rice bowl quota, bringing precisely measured portions to school, eating before practice to fuel the session rather than recovering from it. These were not the habits of someone following a coach's instructions. They were the habits of someone who had decided, at 17 years old, that every variable within his control would be controlled. By the time he joined the professional ranks, Ohtani had separated his dietary cycle into 2 distinct phases: a building phase, heavy on carbohydrates and caloric surplus, targeting muscle and mass, and a cutting phase, high in protein and vegetables, designed to reduce body fat while maintaining strength. In January 2025, Ohtani described his year-round carbohydrate management in detail, noting that pasta and flour-based foods serve as primary fuel sources and that the balance shifts depending on proximity to competitive games. This isn't guesswork. This is engineering. The same engineering mindset applies to his decision-making on the field. He doesn't want to be rested on a hunch. He wants to be used based on data, the same data he himself has been feeding into his body and his preparation since he was a teenager. That's what makes the Venezuela situation so jarring. The coaching staff was acting on instinct and caution. Ohtani was acting on a system. And when a system meets a feeling, especially in a high-stakes competitive environment, the collision is inevitable. Here is the detail that most coverage missed: the confrontation did not end in a stalemate. And it did not end in Ohtani simply accepting the decision out of obligation. According to insiders, a second conversation took place approximately 40 minutes before the first pitch. This time, it was quieter. Ohtani sat down with the manager one-on-one. What was communicated in that room has not been fully disclosed, but the result was visible to everyone watching: Ohtani took the field. He did not protest publicly. He did not give a cold performance designed to prove a point. He played, and he played with the full intensity that defines everything he does. This is the part of the story that Darvish would find most familiar. Because this is precisely the kind of moment he described when talking about Ohtani's character at the WBC: not the home runs, not the strikeouts, but the way Ohtani moves through conflict. Even when he had expressed full displeasure with the situation, even when he had declared openly that he could not accept it, he still showed up. He still gave everything. He still put the team first. Because for Ohtani, the declaration of disagreement and the commitment to the collective are not contradictions. They exist at the same time, in the same body, with the same focus. Darvish put it best during a conversation after the 2023 WBC: "When I speak with him, he has a humility and playfulness that suggests he still has plenty of room for improvement." That sentence carries more weight now. Because humility, as Ohtani practices it, doesn't mean silence. It means saying, "I cannot accept this," and then going out and performing at the highest level anyway. So what does the Venezuela locker room clash actually mean for Japanese baseball, not just for this tournament, but going forward? It means the old model of managing star players from the outside is no longer workable. Ohtani is not a player who can be handled with protective instincts and cautious rotations. He is a player whose preparation is so thorough, so data-driven, so deeply internalized, that any decision made about his body and his role needs to involve his input. The coaching staff that understands this, that treats Ohtani not as an asset to be preserved, but as a partner in decision-making, will get the best version of him. The staff that doesn't will keep running into versions of that fist on the table. This isn't unique to Ohtani. It's the direction that elite athletes everywhere are moving. The data revolution in sport has shifted power from the dugout to the player, because the player now has access to the same information, in many cases, more of it. Ohtani doesn't just read the nutrition books. He applies them. He doesn't just know what the pitch clock is. He has already internalized every sign at every count before he steps on the mound. The gap between what Ohtani knows about his own performance and what a coach observes from the dugout is wider than it has ever been in baseball history. And that gap is only going to grow. The question now isn't whether Ohtani was right or wrong to slam that fist on the table. The question is whether Japanese baseball, and Samurai Japan in particular, is building a structure that is capable of holding someone like him. Not holding him back. Holding him. Supporting the kind of obsessive, precise, self-directed excellence that has made him the standard by which every athlete in every sport will soon be measured. Darvish, from his new role as advisor, is already trying to build that structure. His seminars in the bullpen. His pitch clock preparations. His emphasis on finding a style that suits you, not simply imitating the latest trends. All of it points toward the same destination, a Japanese national team that doesn't just admire Ohtani, but understands the foundation beneath him. The clash in the locker room before the Venezuela game was not a crisis. It was a signal. And the teams, coaches, and players who learn to read that signal correctly, who understand that Ohtani's demand to play is not ego but architecture, those are the ones who will be standing closest to him when the final game of the tournament is decided. The fist on the table wasn't the end of something. It was the beginning of a conversation that Japanese baseball has needed to have for a very long time.